Asian Americans, we need to do better with supporting our local small businesses. We need to do better. Okay. And what do I mean by that? Right? What do I mean you gotta support? Like how do you support, right? Many different ways, guys. Many different ways. Number one, these are just some suggestions, okay? And I'll give you my reasons why after. Look, support your local bakeries, for example. Support your local coffee shops, okay? Hopefully they're Asian owned. If you live in like Flushing or some Asian community, why don't you shop there and buy coffee there instead of going to Starbucks? Right? Go to your local supermarkets. Go to the local bars and restaurants. And, your favorite, hot pot, your favorite Korean barbecue, whatever it is, I want you guys to have this mindset of how you spend your money. This sort of like conscious way of spending your money, right? When it comes to goods and services. Why is this important? Guys, the funds need to circulate within our community, right? It needs to stay within our community, okay? More money needs to come into our community than the money coming out. And why is this important? Because when it comes to Asian Americans getting empowered, when it comes to Asian Americans actually, doing movements and moving as a collective and demanding for certain things, guys, a lot of that is tied with money. Okay? A lot of movements, a lot of things, they need funding. Okay? They need financial support, right? The people that you want to elect for your local government leadership positions, and if they're an Asian American, you want to support them, guess how you support them? You support them with finances. Okay, you support their campaigns with campaign donations, with contributions. Movements, if there is some sort of rally going on, if there's some sort of call for justice or whatever it is, a lot of these things, you need money to get things organized. Money needs to be, the wealth needs to stay within the Asian American community. And this is important. This is important, right? And I think some Asian American communities, I'm going to say, like, let's say, from what I know, the Chinese American Asian community, right? The Chinese American community, they're really good. They're really good at keeping the funds, keeping the money circulating within themselves, right? I don't see that as a bad thing. Some of you may see, oh, they're just so insulated. I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. Okay? Who else? What other communities are really good at that? The Jewish community are really great at that, right? Right? Look, working in the bank, I had the opportunity to work with a lot of affluent and wealthy Jewish clients, and there's a certain trend, right, with how they operate when it comes to business or when it comes to money management. And it's very there's common themes here, right? A lot of times when it comes to big things, they only trust within their community, right? They only trust and hire and use and mobilize within their own community groups, right? Within their Jewish communities, right? And some of you may think, well, that's not good. That means you're not being part of the greater American system. I hear you. But when it comes to, and I'm not going to talk about Jews, I'm going to talk about the Asian American community as a collective, as a whole. We have to learn how to use our resources, financial resources, together. Okay? Not just the Chinese American community, not just the Korean American community, not just the Japanese American, as the whole Asian American community, we have to learn how to come together, use our funds together in the right way. Because that's not happening right now, right? We're like, let's be very honest. Within the Asian American community, there's many different ethnicities. So it's hard to get together. Where am I getting this from, right? Why am I all of a sudden talking about this? Well, look, for a couple of years, I listened to guys like Killer Mike, for example. Right? Killer Mike has been, to me, he's been a pretty big inspiration on being about your people, right? So Killer Mike is all about being about his community, right? The black community. If you don't know who he is, please look him up. He's a great speaker. And he's preaching to the black community a lot about economic empowerment, right? And he's basically saying how money needs to circulate within the black community, right? He wants to see black people succeed in America. He wants to see black entrepreneurship. He wants to see black ownership. He wants to hire, only blacks within these companies that are controlled by the black community. And that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. Him being so pro-black America, when I see that, I get inspired. I get so inspired. I said, well, we need some of that within the Asian community, right? Because let's be honest, the Asian community, we're not great at coming together. I've said this before. We're not great at reaching out with other communities and working together. That's not really a thing because we like just playing among ourselves, right? Whether it's the Chinese community, the Korean community, the Filipino community. There's not, from what I see, I don't see that much of commingling. Okay, and I guess what I'm trying to say is I want to see, right? I want to see these different Asian American communities come together, not just physically, but also be able to put our resources together. We want to make sure that our voices are heard. You want to make sure that we have justice in certain issues. You want to make sure, you want to have our people in media, in Hollywood, in all these places of representation. You're going to need finances to push these things through. Guys, if you're in hiring positions, and this is going to sound extremely controversial. If you're a hiring manager, right? Hire Asians, hire Asian Americans. There's nothing wrong with me saying that. Of course, let them make sure that they're qualified. If they're not qualified, don't fucking hire them. Okay? But if they're a qualified Asian American, there's nothing wrong with you saying, not out loud, of course, but with you choosing Asian American candidates over non-Asian American candidates when they have the same qualifications. Now, John, that's being racist. How is that being racist? Okay, by the way, that happens all the time. It happens a lot. Okay, within corporations. Listen, when I was banking, all right, I remember when there was a very I would say this woman, right, black woman, loud. She had a very loud presence. Right? She was very vocal about what she did, and she was a branch manager at a certain branch. And when I think about this woman, I just always, the image that I have is her yelling, because she used to yell a lot, not in a bad way, but the way that she projected her voice, to me, it always just sounded like yelling. Anyway, this person, right, this branch manager who was a black woman, every time she would hire people, she would hire only black people. Don't tell me that all the candidates were only black. That's bullshit. Okay, she hired only black people. She hired all black tellers, all black bankers. If she had a say, she wanted to hire black people. And when I looked at that, I understood why. Okay, she wanted to give people within her community a chance of employment or banking, whatever it is. She wanted to bring her people up, and there's nothing wrong with that. Now, if they weren't qualified, and if there were more qualified people and you chose the lesser qualified person over, the more qualified person because of skin color, that's, you got a problem there. But it's very hard to prove that, right? It's very hard to prove that. But anyway, guys, if you're in a hiring position, right? You're a manager. If you can hire Asians, do it. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with bringing your people from the bottom and moving them along with you, right? Moving them along with you. There's nothing wrong with that.